It's day number 3 on the calendar of working on this instrument, but only about into the second hour or so working on it. And we're about to see what we accomplished with this clamping system. So we're going to loosen this up and take it off and see what we got. And the easiest way to loosen this up and take it off will be with, it's loose now, so there's no tension on it. But now the easiest way will be just to cut the wire, take this off, and see what we got. Well, I'm impressed with it so far. Now, did my electrician's tape idea work? It looks like it did. It just snapped loose. And I can't reach in there to get the thing. It's terrible. There is no room in this guitar at all. And especially when you got gorilla-sized hands. Well, let's see if it'll fall forwards here. There it is. Okay. Got just a tiny bit of glue attached to it there, but no big deal. Well, it looks pretty darn good. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty good. Yeah, that's all solid now, and it's flat. Hopefully you can see that it's pretty flat. It needs a little cleaning up yet, a little sanding, and maybe even some super glue in some places, maybe a little fill wood in a few places. But I think structurally we're in pretty good shape. I don't believe there's anything else loose in this guitar. So we may be about 75% of the way through this project. In the meantime, yesterday afternoon, after I got this all rigged done and finished that video, put it out, then I decided, well, I got time, I'll make this bridge. So I've already made the bridge, and thank goodness I made the bridge just a little oversized. I would say it's a little more than a 16th, but less than an 1/8. So whatever that works out to, and I can't think in my head right now, it's too early in the morning. But anyway, I took the little buttons out of the ends of the old bridge and put them in the new bridge to kind of make it have that same look and feel. And making it just a hair bigger is going to cover up a whole lot of the crud and cracks and junk that they messed up when they glued it on there the last time. And I've got the holes drilled already so that I can use that as my lineup for through the top. And what we'll have to do first, though, is carefully mark off and scribe and get rid of all the rest of that finish and clean that whole bridge area, and we'll get this glued down. So I'm going to work on that right now. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this bridge area, and I'll bring you back as we're ready to glue this on. Okay, thought I'd bring you back for a little update. Haven't started anything really. All I did was I kind of clamped the bridge down just as a temporary measure. I clamped it on there kind of temporarily just to make it stable, and I put 2 bridge pins in to kind of line up the holes. Now what I'm doing is I'm using this little metal steel ruler as a square, and I'm lining it up with the front of the bridge, the only flat place on the bridge. I'm trying to look down the seam and make sure it's fairly square, and it looks pretty square to the top. So that's how much out of square they had it glued. That point used to be right there. So that's 5/16 of an inch almost. So anyway, now that I've got it square, I'm going to scribe the real fine detail line around it, and then I'm going to pick out all the finish inside of that line, and finish and glue and everything else. Just a side note, as I was scribing this line around here with the X-Acto knife, things keep popping off, just little flakes, and I thought, oh man, this finish is so brittle, it's just popping off. But as it turns out, I don't think it's actually the finish. I think it's some extra glue that they had, and it's not the heat glue. This is some other kind of glue that's popping out of the finish, and it's coming out, and it looks like it's leaving the finish behind. So just thought I'd mention that to tell you there's just more to the story. Well, you can see now I have a fine line scribed all the way around there, and that will allow me to remove a lot of that ugly junk that's there and smooth out the surface a little bit better. And when we glue it back on there, it won't hardly be noticeable that it's been removed and replaced. So that's going to make a nicer job. Just thought I'd give you a look at that, and you can see now. You can see how much bigger my bridge is than that spare area that's scraped off, but I can tell you for sure the area that's scraped off isn't as big as the old bridge. So somewhere in between the surface that's still there and my scribe line, that's how big the old bridge was. The old bridge actually covered some of the finish. Thought I'd let the camera roll here as I do some of the picking of this finish off. And because you can't tell on video what I'm doing exactly. I'm not pushing. I'm basically just running the very sharp chisel up to the edge of the finish, and then I just kind of lift it a little bit. And I'm not pushing with the chisel at all. And with that scribed line, it cracks right up to that scribed line if you scribe the line deep enough. And at least that's the theory. Okay, we'll just continue on. Okay, I've done a careful job of picking all the finish off within my scribed line, and for the most part it's fairly clean. There's a lot of scratchy looking junk out on the outside edges, but that's where they messed with it before. I don't know if I can clean that up at all or not. Right now, where this crack is across these sound holes, you remember there was a valley across here. Well, that had broken and lifted up. Well, it's still just the slightest bit higher than the rest of it. I mean, barely higher at all, but I'm going to go ahead and just take off that high spot with this little finger plane. I mean, we're only talking, a 32nd of an inch, really. It's not much at all. But this will give me a flatter surface for all the glue to sit on. It's solid, but it's just a little bit sticking up. And you can really control these finger planes if you learn how to carve with them like I carve the mandolins. So it's really about my best option for getting it flat. That's much better. Okay, I'm going to attempt this crack right here is the big crack. It's the only one that's really opened up. All the rest of them, actually I think most of the rest of them are surface. This one might be a crack, but I don't really see much movement. I think the rest of them are surface. So this is the only one that's really a structural crack or a crack in the actual top. So we'll get the I think what I'm going to try to do is clean that crack out a little bit. It looks like it's got a little dirt in it, and then we'll try the super glue idea and see what we can do with that. Got the camera really zoomed in, and I'm just taking the flat part of the X-Acto. I'm sticking the point down. Sharp side of the blade is down, but I'm just sticking the point down in the crack, and then I'm lifting it up, and hopefully you can see all the dirt coming out of there. There's all kinds of dirt in this. And I'm being really careful not to chip the finish. I'm just trying to use the very needle tip of that and just lift all the junk and gook and dirt out of there. And there's a lot of it. Hopefully you can see all that coming out. I don't know if the camera will get all that or not. There's a lot. That ought to let it flow, and I think when I press down on it, it's going to close up fairly good. Okay, I'm going to attempt to get the glue on here as careful as I can. I don't have one of those real fine applicators. It would be nice if I did. Push it up against my waist here and hold it with one hand, spray it with the other, and try to hold it together right there while it hardens. Well, that looks like it did it pretty good. I have to do a little bit of light sanding and buffing there, but that actually seems like it closed it up pretty good. Okay, I'm going to take a piece of 320 and as detail-y as I can, stay right on the cut mark with the end of my finger. rough it up a little bit. As you can see, it's starting to turn milky white in little spots. Maybe you can see those spots. That's what I'm trying to get rid of, is just some kind of gook that's on there. I don't know if it's glue or what it is. But I figure the best option is to sand it off rather than try to scrape it off, because I'll just scratch the top up. And this way I can buff it out. Hey! Hi, buddy! Had a little interruption there by my grandson, year and a half old, and had to take a pause for him. Now we're back to sanding this stuff off of here. And actually, that's making it look a lot better. Just get that junk off of there. Here's a big bunch of it right over here. We're not doing anything to the back and the sides. They just are what they are. I will touch them up on the buffing wheel, which will make them look a little bit better, but I'm not going to spend much time on the back and sides since that all seems to be halfway decent. Okay, that's about as much time as we're going to spend on it. We're going to take it over to the buffing wheel now, and we'll bring the camera over there and show you what we do to it. Okay, here's my buffing wheel set up, and if you'll look at the base, which I think is the interesting part of this, you might know what that base is from, but I'll tell you. Did you ever watch any of the old I Love Lucy shows back in back in the 50s, I guess it was, and 60s? Well, they had those weight reducing machines where they put the belt around their abdomen and it shook them. A fat shaker. That's what that stands from. I found it in the dump and I thought, well, that'll make a great stand for my buffing machine. Okay, I've got the buffer turned on. I have dark compound and light compound. The dark compound is a little bit rougher. I always use the dark on the left side and the light fine polish on the right side. So we're just going to work on the coarse polish right now. You do have to be kind of careful doing this so that you don't let it catch something and jerk it out of your hand. I think you can probably see the difference, the buffed side versus the dull side. Here's the dull side, here's the buffed side. Looks much, much, much better. We'll just keep going with that and I'll bring you back when we're finished. Well, we got this thing all buffed out. It actually looks better than I thought it would look. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, the finish is still doing this. It just is. It is what it is. But it kind of looks like a halfway well cared for guitar now compared to, you know, something that was abandoned and thrown in a dumpster type of thing.